What's up, everybody? So it's been a busy news day on the Making a Murderer front, Stephen Avery's case. Over the last 24 hours, the state responded to Kathleen Zellner's motion. Then Kathleen Zellner responded with a tweet. Jerry Buting then tweeted his thoughts. And now Kathleen Zellner has posted her rebuttal to the state's response in opposition of Mr. Avery's petition. It's linked on her website, and I will link it in the description below. Her original filing was 41 pages. Then the state responded with 12 pages. This rebuttal is 6 pages. So we're going to go over it here and see what her rebuttal is. She's got, I'll link it in the description like I said, but it's kind of set up like a chart. It's got the state's response and then Avery's reply in columns, and we'll go over it here. I'll do it like state's response, Avery's reply, and so forth. You got it? You got it? All right, here we go. The state's response, state footnote 1, Bobby Dassey's whereabouts. I get an idea of where he maybe was allegedly. The state's response in footnote 1 reiterates what the COA stated about Avery's misrepresenting facts. The COA statement, in its opinion, specifically concerned proof of whether Bobby was home alone on October 31st, 2005 on his computer. The COA believed there was no proof that Bobby was home alone that day. Avery's reply. See Avery petition. It is evident that the Court of Appeals was either unfamiliar with the record or disregarded it entirely. It stated that it was skeptical that the CD report impeaches Bobby's testimony about sleeping and accused current post-conviction counsel of misstating that Bobby was home alone on October 31st during the time the computer searches were conducted. However, the Court of Appeals did not consider the fact that Bobby himself testified that he was the only person home from 6:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. that day, the relevant time period of the searches. Bobby's testimony states that he was asleep from 6:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. is clearly impeached. The COA's failure to be familiar with Bobby's trial testimony caused it to miss this important impeachment evidence. Woo! State's footnote 2, the bullets. The state claims that Avery is contending that the state witnesses testified that the 2 bullets recovered from Avery's garage were actually the 2 bullets used in the fatal shot. The state miscites Avery's petition at page 18. Page 18 of Avery's petition discusses COA improper reliance on a Southern District of New York case for assessing Brady. The state mischaracterizes Mr. Avery's argument that he never claimed that state witnesses testified that the 2 bullets in Avery's garage were used in the fatal shots. Rather, Avery's argument is that the COA statement is incorrect, that the state did not argue that the specific bullet number FL entered Teresa Halbach's skull or killed her. The state ignores Dr. Eisenberg's testimony. The state does not acknowledge that the forensic shell casings were not linked to FL or FK, or that Dr. Eisenberg testified that there was no evidence of other gunshot wounds to the bones from other parts of Halbach's body. Dr. Jensen's testimony is that Mrs. Halbach's DNA found on the bullet was the result of the bullet passing through Mrs. Halbach's brain. The exact testimony from the state's expert, Dr. Jensen, in the record, and then it lists his statement below. You can go check that out. There's a couple pages there, and it's very tiny print. You can probably blow it up though. State's footnote 2 IAC claim. The state claims that Avery is miscasting his newly discovered evidence claims as ineffective assistance of counsel claims in his petition. The reply is the COA that casted Mr. Avery's newly discovered evidence claims as ineffective assistance of counsel claims, not Mr. Avery. See opinions, pages 13 and 14. State's response, page 4. COA errors. The state argues that the Wisconsin Supreme Court is not an error-correcting court. Kathleen Zellner's rebuttal. Mr. Avery asserted in his petition that the court's blatant misstatement of the facts undermines the integrity of its opinion. The state misconstrues Mr. Avery's petition. He is not asking that the Wisconsin Supreme Court edit the COA factual errors. Rather, Mr. Avery claims that the COA unreasonable application of facts, including its significant factual errors in determining the facts, supports his argument that the COA's decision opposes the United States Supreme Court and Wisconsin Supreme Court precedents. A lot of big words. The state claims there is no compelling legal issue for Wisconsin Supreme Court to address. That's what the state said. Here's the Avery response. The misapplication of the Strickland standard requiring Mr. Avery to prove his pleading would establish an acquittal. It is contrary to United States Supreme Court and Wisconsin court cases. Further, the COA analysis of the CD, DASI CD, is unprecedented and relies exclusively upon a Southern District of New York opinion that is unopposed and has been criticized and not followed by every other district court in New York. More importantly, the COA's opinion directly contradicts the Wisconsin Supreme Court in State versus last name I can't pronounce. Wisconsin Supreme Court criteria for granting review. State's response, pages 6 and 7. Avery's experts. The state claims that Avery knew experts all reached conclusions that were consistent with his guilt. I don't believe that for 1 second. Avery's experts refuted each claim made by the state in his trial by demonstrating through experiments and their own expertise some of the following. The blood in the RAV4 did not come from an actively bleeding finger, as the state claimed, and it would have been in many more places in the car. Door handle, gear shift, key, steering wheel, and hood latch. I said that in one of my videos. That is 1,000,000% true. I mean, it's common sense. It's not like I was breaking news. If you have an active source of bleeding, it's going to get in a lot of places. And that the blood above the ignition was placed there using an applicator, and the blood flakes on the carpet had been placed there from the sink, right? Placed there after they were dry. That the DNA on the hood latch swab was 90 times greater than the DNA that would be deposited by opening the hood latch one time. That Avery's DNA on the ignition key found in Avery's trailer 10 times more than what Avery deposited on an identical key on an experiment. No human body was ever burned in the burn pit, and the bones in the burn pit had been placed there. No plastic was ever burned in his burn barrel, which had foliage growing in it. That it was impossible to duplicate the RAV4 key being discovered in its location by testimony given by Sergeant Andrew Colburn about shaking the bookcase. The bullet FL did not have any evidence of skull fragments, demonstrating that it had never entered the skull of Mrs. Halbach. The state never explains how these findings are consistent with Mr. Avery's guilt. State's response, page 7, the CD. The state advocates for a new Brady standard when it contended that virtually all of the contents on the CD were indisputably turned over to the defense. The defense's response: there has never been any court that has endorsed a virtually all of contents standard. The state is conceding that the contents of the CD were not identical to the 7 DVDs because the state creates a new standard for a Brady claim. It does not address the significant evidentiary differences between the DVDs and the CD, and it does not deal with the state's misrepresentations to the trial defense counsel that the computer belonged to Brendan and had nothing of evidentiary value. Significantly, the COA admitted with the new witnesses who saw Bobby Dassey push Mrs. Halbach's vehicle after her disappearance that the CD might establish his motive as a third-party Denny suspect. For state response, page 8, the bones. The state defers to District Attorney's Office for 3rd Judicial District versus Osborne for its proposition that there is no right to DNA testing of the bones. What? Osborne specifically refers to a federal due process right to DNA testing. Osborne defers to the state's DNA statutes. Osborne merely states that there is no right to federal DNA testing, allowing the states to impose their own DNA statutes. The state's response is complete misinterpretation of Osborne. Does the state think that they're just going to write something and Kathleen Zellner is going to go away? Oh, I must be right. I'm not going to check those facts. Stupid. State's response, page 7. Sufficient reason. The state claims the only reason Avery provided for not raising his claims in 2013 is that Avery's mere pro-SE status or indigenousy. This is simply not true, as evidenced by the COA opinion, which analyzed Mr. Avery's many reasons for his inability to raise claims in his 2013 petition, and accepted one that it would be impossible for him to have undertaken the extensive investigations later carried out by current post-conviction counsel, which resulted in new theories as to how he was framed and additional factual support for previous theories. Mr. Avery raised several sufficient reasons for not raising his claims before in his 974.06 motion. You think I would have that motion number memorized by now? I've said it 9 trillion times, but I don't. 974.06. I got it. So that's her entire rebuttal. It is linked in the description below, so you can go have a look for yourself. I love how she absolutely tears apart the state's response. Kathleen Zellner is amazing. Fantastic job. I cannot wait to see what the state says now or where it goes from here. Let me know your thoughts and comments on everything below. Thanks for watching. See you again soon. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching, everybody.